Hi there. In this video, we're going to look at patient record navigation in System 1. I'll show you how to open records, find demographic data and registration information for your patient, how to navigate the record, and I'll explain how to use multiple records simultaneously in System 1. Firstly, from the System 1 homepage, let's search for a patient record. You can do this by clicking on the search icon in the toolbar. This will launch the quick patient search screen. In the name box, enter the patient's name, first name then surname. Press enter to search and the matching results will display. Just so you know, you can also search by NHS number, date of birth and just the surname in this same box. To widen your search results, you can enter partial first name and partial surname. This is especially helpful if you're unsure of the correct spelling. In the list of your search results, the colour coding indicates different things about the patient's registration status. Rows in black text indicate a fully GMS registered patient. If the row is coloured in green, it means that the patient has had a GMS registration applied for. Here are some of the other colours you might see. Once you have found the patient, you can either click on their name once and click Select, or just double-click on their name to open the record. At the top corner of the screen, you will now see the patient's name and information in this demographics box. Here you can see their date of birth, their NHS number, and their contact information. At your unit, you may also see information such as their dispensing status. By hovering the mouse over the address area and then keeping it still, a tooltip menu will appear which gives you further registration information, such as the usual and registered GP, nominated pharmacy, alternative contact information, and you may also see here names of other System 1 organisations who also have this patient registered. You can also see a series of small icons. These are patient status alerts. They may represent things such as diseases or conditions, so you can quickly see what the patient has been diagnosed with and when. Some status alerts have linked actions, so you could click onto them to open a relevant template, for example, making it easier to update the record and record relevant information. You can now also see a list of options on the left-hand side of your screen. There are actually two lists here, a clinical list and an administrative list, both of which are used to navigate different parts of the patient's record. Click on any of these options to view that part of the record in the screen. You can also right-click on many of the options here in order to create a new entry of that kind. As well as the demographics box and the clinical tree, you may have also spotted that icons on the toolbar have become coloured, meaning they are now available to use. Patient-related actions can't be used unless a patient record is open. In this example toolbar, we have options to update some demographic data and to add some new clinical data. Hover over the icons in your toolbar to learn which icons have been set up for you. Two key toolbar icons that you will use are Save and Discard. These icons allow you to close the patient record when you are finished with it. Choose between them depending on if you have made any changes which need to be saved or not. Just to clarify that, if you open a record and just look at it, it's appropriate to discard the record, as no information has been added or removed from the record and there is nothing which needs to be saved. If you open a record and perform any action, anything from adding a note to prescribing medication and absolutely everything in between, when you are finished with that record and you want to close it, you should click Save. This will store your updates or amendments in that patient's record. In this instance, I've done nothing new in the record, just looked at it, so I can hit Discard. You will be taken back to whichever screen you had open before you opened the record, in this case back to the home screen. My last search is still displayed, so I can quickly re-retrieve by double-clicking on the patient's name. In System 1, users can open up to 4 patient records at once. This is very useful if you're dealing with family members and for multitasking. To open another record, simply click on the search button or press F10 and enter the next patient's identifier to locate their record. When you open another record, you'll be warned to enter data carefully, and a bold red outline appears around the demographics box, drawing your attention to it. Whichever name you see here is the record that you are looking at and affecting. The other records are still open, but they are beneath the more recently retrieved notes. To switch between open records, simply right-click on the demographics box, and you will see a list of the records you have open. Click on a name to move their notes to the front of the screen. Nothing you do will be saved or discarded in any of the patient records until you choose to do so. It is recommended to minimise the time you spend with multiple records open to help prevent any data entry errors. So let's close this second record. You can click discard now, but if I choose to press save at this point, the system will warn me I have not made any changes. Do I want to save a blank entry? If I do, this will leave an entry in the journal with my name and the current date and time, which is unnecessary. So if you see this option, you should discard the blank entry. In this record, I'm going to use a toolbar icon to update the patient's phone number. I can correct or add a phone number and then press OK. If you need to view another screen, perhaps you want to check your notifications or run a clinical report. Maybe you've taken a phone call or need to answer a query about a different patient. You can navigate to any part of the system and leave this patient record open in the background. As long as you can see a name in the demographics box, the record is still open. You can use the toolbar icons to save or discard the record from here, or you can go back into the record by simply clicking on the demographics box. Aim for the address. Earlier I made a change to this patient's phone number, and now that I'm finished with the record, I should click save. If I attempt to discard the record, however, the system will warn me that I will lose any changes I have made. You can say yes to discard if you have entered the wrong information or have had the wrong patient record open, but otherwise this warning is to remind you to save it instead, so click no and then hit save. From the patient menu, you can view cohabitants of a currently retrieved patient, and you can also view a list of the 20 records you have retrieved most recently. You can also view this information directly in the Quick Patient Search screen by clicking on the History button, and you can find cohabitants by selecting a name within the search screen and then clicking this address to see the household members listed. Using the Advanced option, you can decide to include test records and deducted patients in your search results if you require. Test patient records always appear in orange text with a bold red letter T icon. Deducted and deceased patients will appear in grey text. Within the Advanced options, you can also configure the columns which should display. This may be helpful if you want to view the usual GP or preferred branch site, for example, without having to open the record. Simply click here, use the drop-down list to select a column you want to add, and set a suitable length for that column so that the information can be seen. You may also wish to remove columns that you don't need to see, which you can do like this. From now on, when I search for a patient, I should be able to see all the information I need at this exact point without having to retrieve every patient. Well, now you know how to retrieve patient records and how to navigate around them. Take a look at our other videos to learn about more functionality in System 1.